Yeah, just this is my main save. This one doesn't even count towards my main save. It's gonna kind of show whoever watches this just kind of how Hollow Knight works and why I like it so much.
On the way there was a lifeblood cocoon that I broke to get extra food mass. After exiting, I hit the lever to go towards the main crossroads shaft, then went left towards the beach. I killed the Elder Balder, then proceeded left, down, and then right to corner to find the area map where I'm above. I was obviously directed down and the first method recommended by our expert is to use Vengeful Spirit at the top of my jump to get across. But again, I'm just not very good at video games. I equipped Soul Catcher to quickly recharge soul for the mass fights in the prior room, but I just couldn't do this. Luckily, there is a second way written to use the Squid and Pogo offense recently. It takes time until I reach another corner shot. Gameplay max and I after introducing myself,
Alright, I'm gonna grab another drink. I'm thirsty as hell.
Guarded by a moss kitten while heading towards the green path.
Yeah, I'll be back in a second.
What was warned to watch out for the full eater right under me. Stag was activated, the bench was sat at, and I went up to the left to meet and defeat Hornet, collecting the Mothwing Cloak. After the fight, I went to the far left to enter a structure for a portal encounter, while watching out for the Moss Kid Knight at the end of the dock. I then followed the path under the boss arena, went to the Stag, and took it to Dirtmouth. I was instructed to buy the Quill and the Wayward Compass, but not the Gathering Swarm Charm for now. After talking to Zoe again and meeting Tizo, I returned to the Crossroads main shaft, went right, grabbed a grub, and then continued right to talk to Mila for some new dialogue. I returned to the main shaft, went down to the room connected to the hot springs, and went left and dashed over the ledge to head into the fungal waste. I met the leg eater on my way down and rested at his bench. However, I didn't pay him here as there is apparently a discount that I don't have access to yet. I carefully made my way down the vertical shaft until I got to the bottom, then went left to defeat the twin Shrumal ogres and receive a charm match. I can...
Cool, okay. You wanna go over here? Grab these geos. Geos are good currency in this game. Some walls that look crackable obviously are breakable through. Just enemies, nothing on. Or if you get geos from enemies, obviously. So that's kind of pogoing. I'll be able to show it off a little bit later, but it's pretty useful. Now this is up here. Let's look at, yeah, right here, I think. Oh. Got it. Okay, thank you. It's another geocache up here, and a spike. I didn't even know that. I never found this geocache before. I was lucky trying to X-Smart. I didn't know this area existed. Oh yeah, you can also heal with focus like you saw me doing in the last not very long stream. You can kill these bugs and get blue mask, which are like health. That doesn't last forever, just small amounts. So yeah, pogoing is very important. Hollow Knight, it's a big and that the game introduces. Show a little. So see, okay, well, okay, that was just mean. I didn't expect that to happen. When you do that, I know I died, but you see the point. When you downward slam on something spiky or an enemy, you will, just gotta show right here, I guess. You will be able to, like, go up in the air like that, see? Last playthrough that you saw in the very short stream, I, did this earlier today. But I thought it'd be a really good idea to do right now. It gives you actually a pretty decent charm. Fury of the Fallen. I think it's a reference to a boss a little bit later in the game. And there's a free geocache right here, which is nice because you can buy some items from vendors if you want to. A lot of people have already made guides, tutorials, everything that's probably better than mine. But I like this game, and if people see my stuff, I just want them to like. Oh no, I guess I'm just like maybe buy the game if they want to. It's pretty cheap actually. I mean, I haven't bought it because you see my dad's PlayStation. He's had this game since I had it, so. But from what I heard from my friends who bought it, it's actually pretty cheap. So I wouldn't really worry about price. Silksong came out a few days ago. I have that game too. I guess when I beat Hollow Knight on stream and do all that stuff, I'll definitely do Silksong on stream. That'll be fun. Doing both Hollow Knight games. Yeah. Let's cut that one punch. You can actually come up here later in the game if you missed that charm with some tools that I'll show you once I eventually get there. But yeah. Got that charm. We're gonna want to equip, definitely. I know you'll hear a video talking about like a 112% guide. I'm just kind of watching that for background noise. I don't really care. I'm not really using it to like show this guide. But I actually found that what's it called? Charm on my own. See, so now we have Fury of the Fallen. When it's lost to death, the bearer's strength will increase. So it's kind of like Red Feathered Branch Sword in Elden Ring. That's the easiest way to describe it.
Continue down, being mindful of the mushrooms that spit fizzing growths that do 2 mass damage. Moving left and then up into a gap.
There we go. I just recommend collecting a lot of Geo at the start because Geo is a very valuable and nice resource to have.
Must be done on your first visit to Queen Station and before Mantis, or else he just won't be there. I also optionally entered the upper platform to meet Willa. Interestingly enough, I was not guided to open the Stag Station. Going back, I went down to the right of the acid pools and caught the map corner. I then had to backtrack to the rim of the vertical shaft, and this time went right, down, and left until I heard snoring, where I waited for my first encounter with Fluff. I used the purple...
This is really late game, so you don't really need to go in there. Oh, you can talk to a guy in here, though.
I continued down and to the right, then back down a vertical shaft. After an optional bench at the bottom of
I know experienced Hollow Knight players already know about this.
Hit the lever, then back around to the upper path to acquire the Mantis Claw. I traversed through the area on the other half of the village, then hit the lever to open a passage down. I went down, then immediately back up so I could head right and find Coral for another encounter. Going up through the Mantis village, I climbed up the
So we're just gonna kill this guy. There we go.
Up and around the exit to the upper right. I went up and left, then bounced up the shaft and rescued
kill this guy.
using a tasteful mental spirit to move away. Continuing left, I hit a lever to open a shortcut, then used the mushroom to bounce up and back to
Forgot, I'm kind of weak at this point in the game, so...
I backtracked to Queen Station, this time unlocked the Stag and took it to Dirt Mountain, where I had my first big issue. At this point, I am told to buy the lantern from Sly. However, I have largely been avoiding enemies since I haven't specifically been told to kill them, and only try to do so out of necessity. But this has left me woefully short of the 1800 required geo for this. Luckily, our expert leaves us with a note to head to Green Path and continuously murder the 2 Moss Knights above to get 80 geo per run. This took a while, but eventually I got the 1800 geo needed to buy the lantern, then return to Queen Station and rest at the bench. And from here on out, I will not be
Nice, guys.
I don't want to be destroyed. Match ever again. Going back towards
This guy's a really good practice against the first boss we will be fighting in this Hollow Knight series I am making. That I do plan on finishing, unlike my Elden Ring and Bloodborne series that I said I'd finish but never actually did. You get a little guy right there. I do recommend getting them for obviously the trophy if you want to 112% it. I'm not doing that. I'm just going to play the game as I see. Nice. See it and learn new things. That's you guys watch. Just kill these 2 flies. I'm decently knowledgeable about the first, like, 2 areas in the game. Decently, I say. Not too knowledgeable, don't want to get cocky. There's still many secrets I am definitely yet to find. So go right here. Ooh, wow. Okay, that's not what I meant to do.
It will stop us from
Oh my
preventing
god.
a zone encounter later on. Once I completed this task in the nest, I used the quit and reload feature to return to Queen Station. I made my way right through the shortcut to return to where I saw Hornet. I followed her path, activating the bridge along the way, then used the city crest to enter the City of Tears. I followed the path right and down until I encountered Coral again at the bench. It was then optional to continue down to the left to upgrade the nail for the first time, which I gladly did. After jumping off the elevator to reach the elevated platforms, I ascended to collect the Hollow Nest seal, then made my way right, eventually dropping down to the room below to open a gate and sell all of my relics to Len. I continued climbing, hitting a few levers to open gates and free to grub on my way up, and went right towards an open room. After defeating the Skull I took the physical left towards the elevator, where I broke open the wall to reveal a shortcut to the sky.
You can't get that guy yet, unfortunately. The grub.
Continued climbing up until I took an elevator towards the Soul Warrior.
Now, I don't really know the lore of this game, so don't really expect me to explain it as I go on. I may point out some fun facts on, and stuff like that I've learned about bosses from lore videos I've watched myself, or just cool secret paths that you may see me do, like I did with the charm that I have equipped, which is actually based on, like I said earlier, I think a boss later in the game. Is actually really cool. He's one of my favorite bosses, actually. You'll see why when we eventually fight him. He's really awesome.
While breaking this cracked floor, I was advised to catch the edge so I could free the grub on the way down. Then I could continue.
Oh, I don't know if I was really supposed to go. Yes, I was. Okay. You need this guy.
On my second attempt, you did not see this either.
Yes, you do want to buy the map.
On the Soul Warrior pit, I
Where's
returned
that?
to the elevator shortcut to the Skyway, spoke to Zoe while heading through, hit the lever on the other side to open a passage, then went up
Okay,
to
cool,
collect
cool,
a simple
cool,
key.
cool,
This guide
cool.
wasn't actually clear about the exact location of
So, I'm going to show you how to get to our first boss, called the False Knight. He's not cool, really. He looks cool until you see his face, and he looks like a Undertale character. But you know, this big lore is just going on.
Now here it is only required to buy the first charm notch. However, in the extra notes, it is suggested to get an extra charm or two or even four, since we won't be back to Salubra anytime soon. So I made my own decision here and bought as many as I could, and went back up the crossroads into the Crystal Mine entrance. After talking to Milo for some additional dialogue, I took the elevator up, used dive, and entered Crystal Peak. I also took the optional path to go back and pay the toll in the dark shortcut, which was completely unnecessary and a waste of cash. But I made my way to the right room to rest at the bench.
Cool. So, we're gonna go to Dirtmouth real quick. Just rest at the bench real quick. Now, this charm is really helpful for early game.
Bapanada.
This is pretty useful early game, and so is this, and this. I'd recommend buying the crow immediately. Oh my, this is useful. Go over here, just the bench real quick, just some health. It also updates that map.
Crystal Heart to cross a gap and enter the crystallized mound. I traversed this platforming challenge to free a grub in here, then back down and around to
So now that we're right here, excuse my coughing when I do, I'm quite sick, which is why I'm not going to school tomorrow, if I'm able to do the stream for you guys, which I'm very proud to do. I love streaming. I don't do it often, but it's really nice pastime when I'm bored.
Again, I traversed the platforms to get the Dream Nail. Woke up and left the Moss Seer's home. There's then a long note in the guide about the Dream Nail and how it works, and the most important one is that I can recharge my soul by using the Dream Nail to strike a hostile creature, and to keep a lookout for enemies on fixed routes and speeds. I then went down to the left under the Moss Seer to collect Dream Shield, then back to the Stag Station to travel to Turbo. Once I got there, I realized I didn't have the cash for the next task, which was to purchase the Elegant Key in the Resting Grounds map. So I went back to my trusted source, Geo, to make these purchases. I wanted Father to get some money, but I have not been directed there, so therefore I cannot do that. But once I had these, I went to the Stag into the city storerooms. I went back through the Skyway and up the elevator shortcut to use the Elegant Key, defeat another Soul Warrior, and make my way up to upgrade Vengeful Spirit to Shade.
I forgot about that. I need to open that area.
Sell my relics to Lamb, then used my simple key to head into the Royal Water Pits. Now, before heading towards the bench, I have the optional route to go right to break open a wall to meet two. I don't know who sells rancid eggs for Geo, but I didn't want any and returned left to use Descending Dark and rest at the bench. I went up and left from here, where under the entrance was a breakable wall with a grub behind it. I continued left until I had to fight a bunch of worms to open the gates. Don't judge me on that pronunciation. Buy the area map and open a lever into a fungal waste. But instead of going that way, I returned right and down to collect my first master shard of the game, then quit and reloaded back to the bench. I broke a wall to the right and continued into the wall and came around. Then went up to run into the Thug Defender, who was quickly defeated to receive the Defender's crest. To the right of this, I hit the lever and broke the wall, then used Descending Dark through the floor to collect the King's Idol. I backtracked to the previous area to go to the bottom right of the main tunnels, until I found crystals on the ground, where I used Crystal Heart to cross a gap of narrow spikes. I continued past a bunch of worms, then took the optional route to the left through a crack in the wall to meet Eternal and Militia, and opened a shortcut to the City of Tears. I went back into the right, following the path until I had to fight 3 waves of guard bugs to open the gates towards the Acid Cavern, where I collected Isma's Tear. Since I can now swim in acid, I dropped down and swam to the right to eventually find a grub, then went back to use Crystal Heart with the spikes. However, this time I canceled it to drop through the middle of the
That sign means hot spring. Oh, we have to fight some of these guys real quick.
Then went left as far as I could to drop down to the ancient Mason train station. I went left to the station to drop into an open area. Now this optional route, which I will be taking since it is written down, has me between the enemies to the left of the Great Block, which locks Block into a grave path that we will get to later. I went down, defeated the lesser Mullocks, and collected my first Pale Hole. While heading back to the right, I used Descending Dark on loose floor to free a grub behind another lesser Mull. I returned to the tramway platform to then go down in the middle opening, then to the right to drop my Geo into the fountain to receive a vessel.
Here's that hot spring.
Again. Now this does say I can skip this if I don't have the money, however, I am stubborn as hell and committed to following this step by step. Therefore, I took another piece of advice, which is to massacre the lesser Moloch population nearby until I got at least 3,562 Geo, because I have some extra purchases coming. And I did this, got the first vessel fragment, then bought the map invention, used Crystal Heart to cross the spikes. I dropped into the first...
I can actually pogo on these guys, I just wouldn't recommend it too well on them.
I caught back up into the left.
Pogo on him, and then just kill him.
I continued left and down.
It just makes the jump easier, really, in my opinion.
Went back to the boss with my first 3 bucks.
I sneeze.
Here I have my first boss tip of the guide, the Lost Kid, since we are coming in a little underprepared. The reason provided to fight this boss now is because dying to them has no real in-game consequences, and the boss gives 400 essence, which we require to unlock Dream Gate in Chapter 11, and there isn't an easier way to get that much that quickly that isn't picked up along the way. Fighting this boss now will greatly reduce backtracking later on. The key to this fight provided by our expert is to fight defensively and keep our spacing from the boss. Only go for hits after they close on you, and don't forget to use spells. Sending Dark in particular because it can clear the balloons and provide iframes on impact. So after just a few attempts, I finally defeated the Lost Kid. Spoke to his ghost and collected the essence. Then went back and double jumped into the ceiling to save a grub. I then went right as far as I could go, using Crystal Heart to cross the large distance quickly, and broke the wall at the end to reveal the hidden station, which can be activated and taken to Greenpath. I left the station and went up to the Benchline King Arena. Now here it says to head left along the elevated path, but the picture says to go right. Plus I have to go right if I want to go to the Howling Cliffs, which is where I have to go, so that is where I'm going. I followed the upper path until I jumped into the fake chest to encounter 2 Elder Balders. Used Shade Soul to bypass their defensive trail and exited right to give the Balder Shell charm. I went up and broke a wall to the left to the bigger mountain, continued left on the base. I climbed up and tried to find a cracked wall to break through, but not above Mortimer's humming, as that would be going too far for now. I got the
Oh yeah, actually. Oh, like you forgot. This is actually our first boss. This guy.
There's an extra note here to warn me about the binary choice I have at the end that results in different rewards, but I can get to that when I
So you kind of want to stand right here. Yeah, I did that wrong.
Butterfly flowers like Jodi's blessing. I returned to the dark room, used Descending Dark for a shortcut, and continued climbing the cliffs until I could no more. I then went right and dropped down into a
you
narrow
go.
crevice
Hard.
to find a dorm to learn Cyclone Slash from Master Otto. I exited and continued climbing up and left.
Are you gonna get some geos? No,
Who I
yeah.
definitely didn't get to 2 hearts on. I did not come close to dying here. Defeated him and spoke to him to get the 3
Now you have to
essence.
kill all these guys for the actual boss right there.
To poke off of and reach the stagnants. I have never even thought of this before for some reason, but after a few tries and a few respawns, I was able to reach the net and acquire the second vessel fragment of the run. I also used Crystal Heart to examine the broken egg nearby. When leaving, I used Crystal Heart as far as I could until I fell into Durga. I entered the larger tent to acquire the Grimchild charm, then left the tent to rest at the bench in town to equip said charm, and then snagged the city storerooms. Interestingly here, the last thing I knew I was at his home, even though he hadn't been there yet. I'm not sure how he got this information. This is also my first time realizing that his name changes from the last stag to old stag, meaning there is another one out there.
Oh, whoop.
Sly.
Unlocked the elevator and went up to the left to increase my soul for the first time. I went right to use the optional secret route above Salubra into Blue Lake just to meet Tizo again. Then returned to the infected crossroads up the vertical shaft towards the stag station, but instead went towards the false knight to jump into the ceiling that I broke earlier. I rocketed past his legs, fought past the aspirants, and collected the glowing rune charm. From here I returned to the false knight, made my way above the boss arena to break a cracked wall, dream nail the dead maggot, and fight the failed champion. I have another boss tip here since we are still fairly unprepared, but the Dream Essence is necessary to get Dreamgate shortly. The key to defeating him is to keep our spacing out of reach of his swings while trying to keep him in the middle of the arena. Don't get greedy with the nail. The shockwaves are jumpable with the normal jump. Shade Stolen Descending Dart will help with the big hits, and most importantly, there is a cheese strat. I am simply just following this guy by hitting his armor when he is in the stun phase, then either dream nailing him or healing one mask before hitting his armor again. By doing this without any mistakes, and there will be mistakes, he will never get up until I hit the maggot to reset the fight, and after many attempts here, I spoke to the maggot and collected the essence. Also, I can now kill both maggots nearby to complete their Hunter's Journal entry, then return to the stag to head to the resting ground. I went down
You know what, I'm
to
okay
the
with that.
past where I got the Dream Nail to talk, fight, and defeat Zero to acquire his essence. I returned to the Mossir to get a Hollowness Seal, my second failed order, the Dream Wheeler charm, my fourth vessel fragment, and unlocked the Dream Gate ability. I went right to this newly unlocked area, entered the waterfall on the right to collect the King's Idol, then returned to the stag to head to Dirt Mountain. I left the station, made sure I still had Grimchild equipped, then climbed up to the left to use Crystal Heart at the top of the cliff to head all the way right, double jumped as soon as I saw the elevator, then climbed up and over, hit the lever to unlock the shortcut, then returned to Crystal Peak. I went down, ignored the first grub as it is a mimic, then to break the nearby wall and free the actual grub. Returning up and to the right, there is a Grifkit novice to kill and collect its flame before continuing to the right side of the room. Here I placed a dream gate where Cornerer used to be, then grabbed the King's Idol above. I then went down to the wall I previously broke to Crystal Heart through the lasers and acquired the Deep Focus charm. Then dream gated out, going up and to the right.
There we go. And we got that big shortcut for False Knight.
Descending Dart before interacting with him to start the fight and eventually defeat him. From here I jumped up to fight the Enraged Guardian, collecting my second Master after defeating him. And yes,
You
I
do
did
some
die to
big
him.
damage if
Just
you
trying
do
to
not
be
pay
transparent.
attention.
I left here and went up to the right.
Now this
making my way
time we're not
across the
gonna
bottom
fight
of
this
the room.
guy.
Use Shade Soul to clear the
Mainly
enemies
because I
before
just
freeing
don't
another
want to.
troll. Returning to the previous room, it's possible to execute a combination of double jumps and nail pogos off the Crystal Hunger to reach the High Legends, which I of course did. I continued up as high as I could go, knowing that the Shard Bites can be dream nailed if I'm running low on health. But once I reached Hollowness Ground, I collected my third
Here we go.
nail
Boss
lore
fight
in the
time.
base of a boss
Our second
statue.
boss fight,
Then
actually.
used Dreamgate to return to the start,
That
eventually
Nat
making
Fly
my way
boss doesn't
back
give
to
you a
the
good
room.
item.
On the way to Sly, I spoke with the Gravekeeper's ghost, then bought my first Smash Shard from Sly.
I do
That
actually
is all I
shockingly
purchased.
recommend
I took
selling
the
these
stag
guys
to
for
Rear
soul
Creek
if you do
Path,
not
where I was
have any.
specifically told to rest here to set my
If you get
release.
some
I
money,
went
that
up
would
to
go right
Tarkov
here. The
Farm
knight's
to
gonna
continue
drop
left
and
across
attack.
the massive lake, making my way to the bottom of the next room to collect the Shaper Pond. After a quit and reload, I made sure I had Grimchild equipped and went all the way down the vertical
Go
shaft
down
to
there.
place a Dream Gate, then to the left across a cavern full of
Yeah, he's gonna do that. I doesn't need early left hand.
You can see that. I crossed the cavern full of Durandus, circled around the upper ledge, and learned Great Slug from Master Seal without any issue. I used Trick Gate from here to return and head right, collect the Hollow Nest Seal, then up and
Now,
right
because
to
it goes to the
down.
middle, then you want to stand right here so that those can't hit you. Then yes, they actually cannot hit you.
Then return to head down to the right to rest at a bench instead of the reload. We went to the room on the left and played the Great Boss Charger, then continued left to a long corridor. Free to grow, jumped into the ceiling to get a fifth vessel fragment, and then used the quit and reload method to return to the bench. After getting to the bottom of this room, I climbed up the right wall to collect the Monster's Journal, then down to the Fog Canyon. I went down to the left, swam in the acid and skipped some platforming, then went in the ceiling to collect a Hollow Nest Seal and get some extra blue mats. I returned down to the left where I entered the overgrown mountain. After a few waves of squids, I reached the end to get Howling Race, then quit and reloaded to the bench.
That, so you want to jump, you can get
a Sanctuary, which has the no-price Great Boss giving out 200 essence. Then my fourth fast start at the end of the passage after the boss. Using the Dream Gate to leave, I returned up to the stag to head
I'm not going to do that when he's so close to me.
Moving back to True Master Grip to upgrade his charm. Then continued left through the King's Pass, finding
There we go.
Grim Kit Master and collected Flame. After a quit and reloaded the dirt pile, I could then stag the resting grounds. I used Descending Dark at the bottom of the resting grounds to reach the area below. I could break a wall on the right, then this ceiling just a bit further to free growth. I kept
There you
going
go.
right
And now you want to go down to him.
lost out with the Entombed Lust and got a Wanderer's Journal from the area it was hiding in. Jumping up from
There
here
you go.
to the ceiling like
That's our first boss down.
Then I backtracked left and
First main boss down.
making sure to watch out
Nice.
for flies.
City Crest. This is my first spot later in the game.
Led me to another
Let's go.
Master, and after acquiring his flame, I had the lever to open a
This is
passage
cool.
to zero before returning to the lift.
Oh yeah, this also gets a lot of
City
videos.
Tears. I exited the lift to the
Those
right,
are
then went up the ceiling
100
to fight through
video
the
for
card bug
200.
gauntlet and collect my sixth vessel fragment, allowing me to gather even more soul. Dropping through the tower below, at the second elevator shaft, I dug into the only floor without a call lever to collect the Wanderer's Journal. I continued down to King Station towards the stag room, where before activating the station,
Yeah,
I
let's
used the
ignore
jump
this
to
weird ass
photos on
thing.
the group's legs to get a Hollow Nest Seal. I activated the stag, then placed a Dream Gate.
Hey,
Again,
look,
checking
I forgot
that
what this
the group
building
child
is.
is equipped.
Okay, the place was supposed to be
Station
Franks.
right, then swam through the broken station to
So we
eventually
got our first
free
spot.
Grub and enter the Kingdom's Edge. I dropped down below to find Cornifer and buy the map.
This
Before
is Joe's first
returning up
spell.
to find another red flame and defeat the Grim Kit Master here to collect its flame. From where I entered the area, I climbed all the way up to collect the Wanderer's Journal. Then on the way down, used Crystal Heart to reach the other side of the room. Taking the optional route allowed me to climb all the way up to meet Fardu. Then on the way down, I found a hidden room with a lifeblood cocoon for some extra blue mass. From here, I returned to the bottom of the vertical room to head right and take the upper path. Above a series of double jumps, there is a bent bench sign, and breaking the ceiling above gives access to a bench and a Wanderer's Journal. Dropping back to the right led to the Hornet Sentinel fight, which admittedly took 2 tries. I'm actually proud of that, and once defeated, I could then head down and use Crystal Heart to cross the, and I quote, frankly absurd distance to reach the end and claim the King's Brand. Once I could move again, I used the Dream Gate to leave the area and took the stag to the hidden station. Using Crystal Heart sped up the return to the ancient basin, where I could drop down and open the gate to the abyss using the King's Brand. Dropping all the way down to
So basically what he does,
the
reason he has this lock here,
into the abyss street. And then continue right and climb
it's because of the test we have to do.
Now, how can I get ahead
There you
of this? I got
That spell is actually going to be super useful against the boss later on in the game. One of my favorite bosses I've actually fought so far. Trust me, anytime you fight them, you'll see why. Runback's actually not too bad. Really get him almost first or second try. That'll be nice.
And then slowly climbed up.
For the game, what you do is fight your spirits if you
Right,
have
and at the
natural
far
enemies.
end, I vaulted my dash into the shade float. On the way back, I collected an arcane egg, collected the Void Tender's journal entry from the hidden tab.
If you want to, you can make,
just to be warned for some extra dialogue before using Dream Gate to leave. I returned to Durmouth to fight Troop Master Grim, defeating him to upgrade the Grimchild Charm and collect a Charm Notch. After I returned to King Station, I exited through the upper left to go through
Oh,
the curtain
not
door
bad,
to
not
find and kill the Gorgeous
Nah,
Husk
that's
to collect
gonna be a
its
big one. Nope,
I sold
small
my
one.
relics to Lynn, then
If you get hit here, you take double damage as the spikes up there.
to avoid the enemies. I upgraded my nail twice before backtracking to the Royal Waterworks. I went down to the bench, then used Descending Dark on the corridor below to open the new
Attack,
area.
attack.
After going this
Okay,
far
so
down
not
the
there.
tech
Attack,
I was
attack.
left into a hidden area to find Thief
Attack.
Bill.
Hold on,
Defeating her and
that's something
collecting the
to
Blue
attack.
Nest Charm. I returned up, was mindful of the
Like that.
bellfly at the top before opening the cracked wall at the
Oh,
top.
whatever, so there's another one.
Then going through our returned to the bench to go all the way left towards Fungal Waste. I
I
went up
guess
to
we're still
retrieve
at
the
heal
bench,
if
moving
not
down, and
into.
left dash past the truck.
I'd recommend saving as much soul as possible for a moment later on.
Making my way down the left side.
These guys are quite easy to kill.
Before I drop down to the bottom, I use Crystal Heart
Just
to cross and get a few
low-key
extra
attack them
kills
like that.
faster
It's
than
super,
Forge.
super,
After defeating
super
them, I
duper
circled
easy.
back up and to the right to collect some
Now,
Geo.
this is my favorite area. It literally has everything you might want.
Up to use double jump.
Some nice Geo. I can recommend from this one some more advanced on that side. Then this. There may be a third one. Yeah, it is nice to have 7 masks though. That's for sure. So you don't want to hit him. You can go deeper. Pogo. It's super easy actually. This game is really, I don't have to say easy, but pretty nice and actually pretty fun when you understand the paths and where you're supposed to go after certain places. That was a real I almost game one time. Well, I kind of did, so how lost I was. I don't think I'm supposed to go up there yet. But I have no clue, I'm really lost. Oh, I'm supposed to go right here. Yep, okay, so you want to boom, boom, boom. Guy's gonna spit out one of these guys.
To get rid of Grim Child Charm, and therefore this fucker just attack everything it will, leaving me completely exposed to the orange bubbles of death. I also just stink in this game and made a few mistakes on my own, but the child following me was not helping. Eventually taking my time to get through this and using the respawning bomb, or whatever the hell is pronounced, I retrieved the charm notch and then my shade. I returned to the previous room to head right to the Fungal Waste. I went to the right to return to the Leg Eater, equipped the Defender's Crest, and bought him out of his inventory so I could unequip the Defender's Crest afterwards. From here I followed the path down to the right.
Now you just want to move over here, and then here you get a really good charm called Soul Catcher. Now listen.
Crystal Heart to find the hidden grub. I dropped to the middle of the room, placed it
Just gonna open that.
and entered the teacher's archives.
I don't know if there's anything over here.
It was easy to kill with magic once more. And once Squirrel did what he must, I had
Yes,
to
I
take
can
the
check.
Ninja stream and end it. After I took the optional route to collect the charged Lumify journal entry, I then used Dreamgate to exit. Outside the archives, I went left and dropped all the way down to go left again and meet Willabelle the Banker. However, I could never trigger the dialogue because my damn Grip Child wouldn't stop attacking her. So bad vibes are coming from this, but I put my child away so I could max out my bank account, then return to Willow to find a hollowness seal in the area above. Plus dream-nailed her in the nearby corpse for some, and I quote, Grim Dark. I went down to sit at the bench and get my child
okay,
back.
sorry, I just messed that. This one's okay. I do recommend, if you want to do magic, I do recommend Speaker. I also recommend it for healing.
Knocking over the bank facade is proof. Return to the vertical room to head towards the Queen's Gardens. On the path I met Cloth again since I rescued her from the ancient basin. Surely nothing could go wrong here. I went down to the right to fight for the Mantis Petra, then up to the right to meet Cornifer for the final time with an optional meeting with Caliph and Farron.
Okay, now I'm going to show you where to go, and a really good charm to buy for this next area that has me going mentally insane sometimes. Like how lost I got, and how many times I died to the goddamn acid in this area. Because if you've been following my path, you've only bought the quill, or let's say you already bought Wayward Compass, you can just kind of skip the step that I'm doing. And when it becomes a full video, you can just skip. I don't know when to skip, just kind of skip when I'm done with this part. I can't really predict that, this is a YouTube video. Stream. If you hear music and stuff, it's just a way I guess log in during games, or just kind of ignore it if you want to. I will be saying the songs I listen to. I also hear the video. I don't really care about copyright, but copyright, I guess.
After navigating the thorns and platforms, I placed the dream gate at the start of the next room, so I can climb up, break the glass nearby, continue climbing to free a grub, and use the dream gate to return to the bottom. From here I can go left, navigate the trick platforms, and face the Traitor Lord. I have another boss over here for this fight. This guide states that this is one of the most frustrating bosses, not for the actual fight, but for the fact that the nearest bench is at the stag station and getting back requires traversing 2 medium difficulty platforming challenges, plus starting the fight against several Mantis traders, which can lead to an early exit if you start the fight low on health and soul. It is suggested to quit and reload if this happens before the fight even begins. For experienced players, it is recommended to place a dream gate under the entrance to quickly return. However, this guide provides a narrow margin for dream essence to unlock the final completion percentage. And multiple attempts may require visiting Whispering Roots to get the final essence, which this guide
I do kind of recommend buying
Now
this.
for the actual fight guide, once the roar from above begins, we can officially to get some cheeky preemptive damage. The key to beating him is to stay close, maintain Pogo Bailey attack chains instead of staying ground.
Cool.
Standard dashes.
Just reading about those two things. No. Alright, what's
Final blow to the traitor lord. Once defeated, I continued left to enter the Queen's Sanctum infantry. The first
yeah, you'll see it with a little hollow
I was back
figure
at
on
the
there.
Queen's Garden stag station. With Grimchild equipped, I returned to the bench I unlocked earlier, but this time dropped through the floor to head to Deep Nest. To the left was a narrow hall where I met the mask maker and allegedly broke his mask with a sending dart. I dropped to the bottom to enter a new room and immediately placed a dream gate exit before continuing left. Once getting to the large open cavern, I dropped down to the right to meet the midwife. But careful, she bites. I returned to where I was and entered a small hut to meet with Crumb and discuss the
No, go down
upcoming
right here.
ritual,
No, I'm up right
eventually getting his way. From here I went up and entered the beast den and took a rest at the bench, only to wake up in a bind. I broke free, and while traversing the narrow pass, I grabbed a Hollowness seal and freed Corrupt before finally reaching Terra, entering her dream just to end it. I spoke to Gordon before making my way out, and I was told here I could unequip Grimchild, so I did just that. Went up to the distant village stag and unlocked it, and took it to the stag nest to examine the egg again, just to return to the stag for a quick chat, just to dream gate.
Did now ring Green Pass?
Right past the
Not officially
in
Green Path, but close enough.
behind it to the right to break another wall and enter the Weaver's Den to collect the Weaver Song Charm. Following the path provided, I entered a new room with glowing
Can we find Cornifer down here? Could be wrong, so don't follow me until I confirm it.
Up towards the failed Trainwood. After placing a dream gate on the ledge above where I came
Nah.
continuing leftward and got the train pass. I used the dream gate to return to the beginning, went through the large door on the right, and dropped down below. Battling through the Corpse Creeper Gauntlet, I then got the chance to rescue Zoe again, this time from the spider web. From here I went left to
God, if I had been mute the entire time, I'd be so angry.
I went to the bottom of the room and to the right to enter the Deep Nest Hot Spring. After a quick rest, I returned left. Using Crystal Heart led me to a ledge where I could break a cracked wall and drop down to free another grub. The wall above also could be broken, and following up a familiar figure through the winding tunnels led to the Nos fight. Boss notes here just state that this can be annoyingly aggravating. The chainsaw can do double or even triple damage when Nos is running away. Plus, when Nos jumps into the ceiling, an Abyss Streak leaves the Nos highly vulnerable and meant to be punished for a quick and dirty kill. With Nos defeated, I continued on to collect the Pale Orb and quit and reloaded to return to the hot spring. I left here to the right and placed a dream gate roughly as close to the center as I could, then dropped over below. To the left was a hidden area where I got the Garpeed Turtle entry, then through the Shadow Gate and chain cloaking through the enemies to get the Sharp Shadow Charm. Reading Dream Gate got me back to the previous room, where I went to the room above to nail pogo, dash, and double jump across the Garpeeds and spike walls. Clearly without coming close to dying, then pogoed up the Garpeed's face to collect the Vessel Fragment. Dream Gate came in clutch again, and I returned to exit right and used the tram card twice to head towards the hive. I took a rest in the bench and left, went straight right to break a cracked wall, placed a Dream Gate, and entered the hive. I went down and touched the left to find a trapped bench, which I freed and took a rest. Not much happened here, I just followed the path provided until I got to this room, where I used Crystal Heart, canceled it, and double jumped into the ceiling to find a hidden area with the grub. In the cavern below, I lured a charging bead to the cracked wall to collect a 9th fast star. I broke open the wall to the left, then returned right through the cracked barriers to face the Hive Knight. After hitting the beat, I went down to collect the Hive Blood Charm, then used Dream Gate to return to the entrance of the hive. Full transparency here, I was supposed to go up and meet the spirit of Queen Vespa, but I forgot. My deepest apologies for missing this. I followed the path up to an exit in the ceiling.
So there's actually a skip I saw you can do on here on that video I saw whatever you're really using.
Returned to the right and used Descending Dark to open the
like, can you like go over there? Thank you. I had that.
After placing a Dream Gate above the acid, I popped up to get some new
I fell really far down without anything.
I dropped below to use descending dark to open the floor to get
Okay,
to a narrow
now, yeah, I
passage.
want to stand right here, but kind of stand right here.
I
Yeah,
went through the
them
shadow
to
gate on the right to fight Markov,
jump over.
defeated him, and gathered his dream essence.
It'll take a while.
I went down and past the great hoppers to
He's
enter a
dumb.
hut
Okay.
and learned the dash slash from Nailmaster
Thank you,
Odo. To the right
thank
of this
you.
was a patch of loose ground where descending dark led me through
There you go.
multiple loose to eventually find a grub. Then to the left in
That's a major skip, by the way.
back to the acid pool, and climbing up and
That's a major skip.
to the Tower of Love. From here, I unlocked the door with the blood key, then up the tower to fight the Collector. The boss notes here only have two rules: do not jump and clear the ads as quickly as possible. Doing so made this fight much easier, and above him I freed 3 grubs before acquiring the Collector's map. On the way back, I jumped into the ceiling to find the Vitruvian grub tablet. I left the tower and returned to the King Station, where I took the lower exit to enter a door on a platform to free a grub behind a great husk fencer. I left the building to go up and left to use a simple key on a door with a hot spring sign. I took the elevator up, but hopped off immediately to find a Wanderer's Journal. An obstacle route let me call the elevator back down, but instead of taking it up, I climbed up to find a room with the spirit of Poggy Thorax in the kitchen to the right. At the top, I entered the door, went over to Beauty, then up to the hot spring to find our baker, Billabelle. Punishing her for her sins of being a malicious but very good investment banker allowed me to retrieve 6,834 views. I left the pleasure house and was left, placing a Dreamgate exit at the bottom of the first elevator. I made my way around the next room, striking levers as I went until I had the choice to take an exit on the ceiling to the right to free the final drug of this game. Going back down and up brought me to an elevator, and before entering the gate, I broke through the ceiling to break a chain that made the next fight easier. I went back down and triggered the Walking Knight's fight, and once defeated, I got a chestful of Geos. At the top of the very tall tower was Lorien, and upon entering her dream, I ended it and ended the final dream.
Yeah, that's enough.
Dreamgate brought me back down, and I went left to the statue of the Hollow Knight and talked to Len to get him to go back to his office. I sold all of my relics to him, then Dreamgated back to the right and down to enter the Royal Waterways. I dropped down the hole to enter Odin's Dream and fight the White Defender. No boss notes here, and after this defeat, I captured my 300 essence. I also decided a while ago that I'm going to go for the ritual ending with the Grim Troop quest, so I went down to the ancient Basin Tramway, used its bench to equip Grimchild, and returned up to trigger the Grimkin Nightmare fight. I used the advice given to move the fight to the left instead of fighting him on the pillars, then collected its flame. I climbed back up to return to the City of Tears, and went to King Station to call the stag and place a Dreamgate exit. However, from here I went
See, if I didn't do that skip successfully, we'd be here for a while.
I followed up and left, broke a cracked wall to collect the King's Idol around a patrolling great hopper, then went right to the giant shell. And here started the Colosseum.
Oh, I've never actually done this before. Okay, yeah, this works actually.
Then came the trial of the fool. I used the pit below to bench and set my reload point, but in my eyes, I was stuck here until I completed this. This guide has told me to complete this trial now, so I will complete it now, even though I am just awful at keeping myself in the air by billowing off the enemies. I was guided to remember to shoot down enemies with predictable patterns and use them to my advantage. The run that hurt the most was when I got through the floating cycle, but the non-stop fucking frogs just dominated me. But only after a few hours, I finally got to the God Table, where I was instructed to only worry about the mound since this was all I have to kill here, and I finally beat the trial of the fool. From here, I can go back to the Gladiator Pit and behind the Colosseum to the right, where I found the Pale Lord. Defeating her left me a simple key, and under the wall below the area was a King's Idol. I used Dreamgate to finally leave this area and return to the stag and take the dirt.
Wait, I
left
just
the
forgot about this
station
lamp,
to
bro.
rest at the bench, then went to Brenna's house to collect the
Right, you wanna go right here,
Down in the
check
basement was
that.
a statue of Zoe, and with
Right here.
Dreamdale led to the Great Prince Zoe fight. The boss notes here suggest that a lot of this fight will be spent airborne and shade cloaking to avoid damage with all the shockwaves Zoe produces. When Zoe does his Shadow Slam, it's best to time a descending dark to hit him and avoid damage, while his flail attack can be nail poking. With this knowledge, it was only a matter of time before I defeated the Great Prince Zoe and collected his 300 essence. It was also optional to speak to Zoe for some extra dialogue, and unfortunately, I just felt like I had to go through all of this 57 precepts. We can fast forward through this, and now, finally, the moment we've all been waiting for. It was time to reap the rewards of freeing all those grubs, as I went to the grub hump to receive 6,750 Geo, a Mass Shard, Grub Song Charm, a Rancid Egg, a Hollow Nest Seal, the Last Pale Lord, a King's Idol, and the Glubberfly's Elegy Charm, in that order. With all this cash, I returned to Slide to grab the Nailmaster's Glory Charm, then bought out all of his inventory of charms, match shards, and the final 2 vessel fragments. I also bought out all of the map markers from his Zelda. Now from here, it was time to double check if I had the 24 essence required to complete the Boss Year's quest, and look at that. That's how you know a real ass pro made this. You just know that he planned for the fact that the 2-ish hours of the trial would give me just enough extra essence. Snagging to the resting grounds to see the Boss Year got me an Arcane Egg, the 15th Match Shard, and the Awoken Dream Name. Finalized by exhausting her dialogue until she disappears.
Rosie, I wish I met Cornifer and had that map.
The broken sarcophagus to find a chest with a breakable
It's very
ceiling.
useful.
I went up and entered the hall of the
Yeah,
grave
and then broken
appeared and
term.
accepted her request, starting the delicate flower quest. There are some extra notes here saying that in the event of damage taken, it is better to clear any enemy skips, walk back on foot since it will only make future attempts easier. On the way to Queen's Gardens, I met Coral at Blue Lake one final time, then bought out everything I could from Salubra's shop. Following the provided route, I just knew something wasn't going to go well. My inevitable mistake finally happened. Since it was kinda late in the run, I went ahead and cleared every enemy I could before returning to try again, this time placing the flower on the grave. I quit and reloaded back to the Grave Owner, where I received the final Mass Shard. From here, I used Dreamgate to get to King Station, where I could snag to the Hidden Station. From here, I went left and Dreamnailed the dead King's Vault, which brought me into a dreamscape to kill his living counterpart and enter the White Palace. Before we begin, there is a note here that some good charms to use are High Blood combined with Grub Song to effectively have infinite soul for healing. Combined with Deep Focus or Long Nail or Mark of Pride or Quick Slash are also good options, but it's up to me to decide. I forgot to do this right away, but I promise I will remember it at some point. Also, if you're watching this video and you made it this far, then you've seen this all before. I won't bore you with all the details, but I will show you some of the shortcuts and hidden secrets we found along the way, some of which I had no idea about before coming in. To start, I used Crystal Dash to skip much of the first area, but the next task was saying I passed the bench, and since I'm doing everything, I backtracked the rest here. After the next King's Gold fight, I climbed the wall on the outside to skip the platform.
Oh, that's still hidden.
Starting from
Yeah.
the left side, after getting past the first spinning blades, I dropped to the ledge below to use Crystal Heart for a huge skip
And yes,
by
I'm
canceling it for
lost.
a double jump to reach a platform. When getting through this set of blades, instead of going up, I dropped down, clicking the left wall to reach a platform
pretty
and get to
reliable
the same
guy, I
hallway
guess.
and light the lantern. On the right side, most of this was vanilla, but I learned that the ending is entirely skippable with the descending dark on a bit of the cracked floor, where I can hit the lever and access the lantern. Returning to the main room, I can now access the elevator up. And yeah, I feel like we all know what's coming. The next line is completely optional, but again, I've been doing all of the optional stuff so far, so why not now? I went through the cracked walls of the Path of Pain because, as the expert says, I am into masochism. I'm just gonna fast forward through this for you because the guy doesn't give me anything for this. Thankfully, that's over with, and I can return to our regularly scheduled programming. I did a minor skip here while heading up, but I didn't know about this before, as I took an awful land into a double jump to skip a decent portion of platform. From here, I did some nail pogo with combo spikes to reach the top. I continued up normally until I reached this point, and not knowing this beforehand just pisses me off. But you can use a Miss Streak to skip this annoying-ass section of the palace and get to the spike drop, which with the descending dark was very easy. I used Crystal Heart and canceled it before I slammed into the portals to reach the platforms. Yeah, we're at the top now. Again, I took the optional route for some exploring and did some super dashes and double jumps in this open area to find a lab with a lore tablet, plus a mold of a figure that can be dream nailed. The logistics of this room make no sense. I don't know how a normal being would even get here. I don't know. rest was just crystal hardening everywhere, plus a descending dark to get into the nursery and a broken wall past the Pale King for another lore tab. After all of this, I could now smack the king and collect the second half of the King's Soul Charm, then be ejected from the White Palace. I awoke in the ancient basin and went left to find the bench and equip the Fragile Heart, Joni's Blessing, and King's Soul Charms. I went to the abyss and dropped to the left, landing on this platform to open a special door. Now inside I was sure to not miss the visible arcane egg, and after this I retrieved the Lifeblood core to get my final charm. When I woke, I kept dropping down until the ground below me gave way. In this area I located another arcane egg before finding a large black egg. Hitting it with Dreamnail started the climb scene in the abyss. Afterwards, I used Dreamgate to return to King's Station. I rested at the bench here and left King's Station, returning to left to place a Dreamgate there and one final time to follow all my relatives. I went to the nailsmith, upgraded my nail for the last time, asking me to cut him down as his final request. I simply couldn't do that to my guy. For anything else, I checked up on him at Nailmaster Shio's house in Greenpath. A quick reload brought me back to King's Station and I returned to Dirt Mountain. I upgraded my Fragile Strength charm while I was here to Unbreakable Strength. Then returned to the bench to equip the Grim Child, plus my preferred charm build out to head to the tent and Dreamnail the
I am so lost, Loki.
I've gotten quite good at this game at this point, so the fight wasn't so bad. I needed him to evolve the Grim Child charm to its final form. I drifted back from here to the City of Tears and down to the Royal Waterways. I returned to the passage I had opened before and avoided the Fluke Bungas as I made my way to the other side towards the junk pit. I took the optional route to head above.
I might just finish stream tonight. I was gonna go to bed. Maybe, I have no clue.